Hey, I started work on the transmission switch. I started along not really knowing what I was doing, just kind of using common sense. And fortunately, I kind of got spooked, like, man, what if I pull this out and the whole engine drops? So I supported it with the jack here, and that seems to work really well. And then this just came right out. So what I determined I need to do is there is a spacer that basically rides in here, only in between, and it is in there very tight. So that has to pry out, and that has to go back this way. Then I should have pretty good access to the switch. Prying this out, and then I'll pick this back up. Here's the spacer. It goes in between. It's kind of a bear to get out. When you look in it, you think it's flimsy. No, it's a really solid piece of metal, and it's just pinched in there. I'm really concerned about getting it back in, but I figured clean it up and put the proper amount of oil on it, it will slide back in. It did come out. I found that I wasn't really sure how to do it, and I went to my BMW manual, my climber's manual, and it didn't really have anything about this job that I could find. And so I went to a snow bum site, and sure enough, you know, it gives you a headache to read it, but if you just sit and you concentrate and you follow along, he pretty much points you in the right direction. If you got an airhead, it's best to know where Snow Bum's website is. I don't know if you remember from the first video, I checked the oil level of the transmission and it was pretty darn near perfect. So I checked it again now, and now I can see it has dropped a bit. Over a month I've been chasing this, and over a month it's finally really made a difference. Now honestly, it's only down a little bit. I think the leak's picked up speed anyhow, so this is something that needs to be done. I got the switch in the mail yesterday. I installed it. It went in as easily as it went out. Crush washers, I sealed it back up with the main bolt in. I had trouble with the cross member. There is a sleeve this passes through in there, and I had to pry it out. Okay, so I can't get it back in. It was tough getting out. It's a press fit back in. So I'm using some science to try and get this lined out. I've had it in the freezer for about an hour. I saw this on TV once. I hope it works. So we had some success. Freezing that part did work. It allowed me to pop it back into place. It still had to work it in. You know, I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not easy. I didn't bang anything up too bad down there. Make sure this isn't spinning on the other side. I think it is not. It's not spinning, at least not yet. Now it's starting to. So I'm going to tighten it from the other side. I'm going to lock it in right here. Let's see. Looks about centered. Yeah. I think we're okay. So now we're ready to put the oil in. I don't know how much oil goes in really. It doesn't matter. I don't have to know. Just put it in until it comes out the fill way here. I used to know how much it was. The garage is a mess. I've got tools everywhere. I don't like working like this. Let's just get violent with it. I'm starting to think that I haven't done this since I've owned this bike, because this is different than the Slash 6. The Slash 6 doesn't have this crazy shifter, and so you have good access to the fill away. It's just regular oil, 80W90, Lucas oil. It is the equivalent of GL4 and GL5. According to Lucas Oil, it exceeds those specifications. It needs more. Oh yeah, I'm there. Filled up right to the line. And I'd say that's a perfect fit. Brand new crush washer installed. When you're dealing with aluminum, don't go crazy. I don't really have a good way of torquing this. I just have to go by feel. So, this can put a lot of pressure on it, so you got to be careful. Oh, that feels good. So that's done. All right. I do need to adjust the valves, but I got a month to go until Barber, and I miss riding her, so I'm going to put her together. I just drugged the front tire through oil. This is kind of stupid shit I do all the time. Well, I was geared up and ready to go for a test ride to the gas station to get some gas. I just noticed I forgot one minor detail. I think that might be a problem. Let's slam a headlight in there and then we'll go. I don't know if you noticed that, it was only running on one cylinder. I only had one spark plug plugged in. It was in, it just wasn't attached. Let's see if it runs better now. Shifts much better, shifts like butter. You notice that Lucille is back on the rack. It's not a bad thing, this is planned. We need to do an oil change, and we need to reset the valve clearances. Changing oil is something that's better that's done when it's warm. Well, you don't have that luxury. So we've got a little time. We're going to drain it and just let it drain. Today is long overdue for projects in the garage. Here we go. Cold oil coming out. I'm going to try to. Yeah. So the filter in this thing is a little tricky. Held in by 10. Or size 10, 3 size 10 bolts. One. And between the exhaust and the frame, everything's in the way.
Yeah, wanna go?
And this is what I remember from before. It actually hits the frame before it comes out. I think it's actually loose. I don't think it's had any threads engaged, but I don't think it'll pop out without the filter itself was hanging on and not allowing me to pivot that out. There's the cap. It's a washer. Another rubber washer. The gasket. These are all going to get replaced, and of course the filter itself. It does have a bend in it, and I think it's to make it easier to work in. This is what comes in a kit from BMW. Box with a part number. You can do a man filter. I think the problem with that is you don't get all this. This is the original ring that came off of here. So a new one goes on from the kit. And this goes on here. The new filter, it goes in this side first, and this side with all the lettering sticks out, and it has this little rubberized piece over there that goes into that. I'm not sure what that's for. I didn't see that come out. I guess maybe it goes on the inside. There's a gasket on the inside. I'll have to get a flashlight and verify that. And last but not least, you get a crush washer in the kit. Now, I just happen to have this kit because it came with the bike. I got a couple of extras. Normally I do piecemeal this together, but I'm going with the luxury of a kit today. So, first thing is I will take the crush washer, the old crush washer, off. It doesn't look like it's in very bad shape, but it's getting replaced anyway. New crush washer goes on. Put this in before I do anything else. Well, guess what? I found not all airheads are exactly the same. This part number and this part number I think are for a later model bike. Now, I haven't done any research yet, but this is a model oil filter I've purchased and I've been using on my /6. These filters were given to me by the person I bought the bike from. He had a 92 RT, and the reason why I believe there's leftover parts is because the RT is different than the 81 R100, because you can see there's quite a difference. Now, my concern is getting a solid filter through. I'm going to go through my stash here and see if I have any short split filters, but that's a learning experience. I sure thought they were all the same. I'll probably put a little blurb in here. I'll research this online and lay out the differences. Here we go. This is interesting. This is what I initially started to put in there. 056146. I went through my stash and I found this one. 056145. And 056145 looks like this on both sides. This is the 146, It looks like this on one side and that on the other. And most importantly, the 145 is short enough to work. I'm going to stuff this in and we'll pick this up when I'm filling with oil. I use tie downs to anchor down the front of the bike. On both sides, I attach it to the crash bars down to the base of the ramp or of the work surface. And the main reason I do that, I'm going to lift the floor out and suspend the wheel, because I need to turn that to get the engine in position. I pulled this out, this bolt. It's a size 13 millimeter. It's supposed to have 2 washers. It came out with just 1. I think that's okay. Now we have 2 10 millimeter, one here and one here, that are a little bit awkward. Well, anyway, I loosen this. Your spark plugs need to come out. Ooh, that doesn't look great. It's a little brown. There's some deposit on it. I'll clean that up with a wire brush. Use a little magnet here. It's a lifesaver. You just ease it in there. Voila! One more to go. I caught the washer and the nut dropped, but fortunately it was right there in a fin. So I'm going to put this down here and this should just work right off. I forgot to put an oil catch under that. That's an important step because there is oil in here. Not too much of a mess. Last year I took the heads off. I replaced the rings and I took the heads to a shop and they redid the valves, reground the valve seats. Since that time I've never retorqued the head, so it's been about a year. So what I'm going to do, I'm not even going to back off. I'm just going to leave everything as it sits and retorque the heads. It's 40 Newton meters, so I've got my torque wrench set at it, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4.
This one might be a little bit hard.
5, 6.
So I barely bumped them. I could feel a little bit of movement, but I feel better about having that done. And now, before I move on, I need to pull the spark plug from the other side and we will get it at top dead center and carry on. Right next to your oil fill, there's a little hole. Should have a little rubber thing on it like this. You pop that off and that's your window, and you can see your flywheel in there. So you pop out both of the spark plugs. You put it in 5th gear, and remember I took the bottom out of the ramp so we could roll the wheel around. So in 5th gear, I bumped it until I see OT in there. So it's top dead center on this cylinder. So I can work on this cylinder and then I have to go 1 revolution and then I can do the other cylinder. So the in-play is good. It should be able to squeeze a little oil out. That's maybe a little loose, but it's okay. Noisy valves are happy valves. So the exhaust is 20, and that is just about perfect. the intake is 10, and that's perfect as well. So as far as I'm concerned, we're done on this side. I'm really happy with that. It hasn't moved at all. So now I'm going to bump it over 360 degrees, 360, and then I work on the other side. I won't film that unless there's something interesting. The other side was very interesting. The intake was perfect. The exhaust was actually too tight. That means that potentially the exhaust valve was always somewhat open if it's always, you know, too tight. So it's fixed now. I'm going to torque that side and then I can put everything together and give it a little run, and then we are going to try to balance the beings. Well, I'm going to call her ready. I was going to film the rest of the cleanup procedure. Turn the fuel off. After I did the valves, changed the oil, I decided I needed to sink the carbs, so I took my Twin Max and I went for a ride to Linville to see my buddy Rick, and we did some tweaking on the carbs. We used my Twin Max and then we tested against his carb sinking tool, which is a much better, and it was much better unit. I don't actually know what kind it is, and wow, we're gonna say it ran good. Ran well. So Rick noticed that this little doohickey here was worn out, so he had one and we replaced that, or he actually did most of the work. I stood and watched, and then finally I mentioned to him that for my ride down to Barber, I would prefer not to have a 36-year-old H4 bulb, and so we installed an LED, and that's pretty bright. A nice white light instead of that old yellow, orange. So really the bike runs great. I guess the next video will be Barber.